Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see you. It's great to see you out here. And I say that sort of because I just cleaned my glasses. And if you have glasses or you've had glasses for any amount of time, you know that there's two types of your glasses being dirty. There's the dirt from just walking around and getting all the dust and stuff on them. And then there's the dirty where you just cleaned them. So you all look great. You're just a little streaky and a little blurry, but we'll get through this together. I've had glasses since I was in fourth grade. Fourth grade. I thought it was going to be really cool because Superman had glasses. You know, Clark Kent used them as part of his disguise. And I thought, that's going to be great. I'm going to have glasses just like Superman. I didn't remember, because I'm a fourth grader, and fourth graders aren't that bright. Superman didn't actually need glasses so he could take them off whenever he wanted to. That doesn't work out so well for me. Plus, I've been wearing glasses for so long that now, if I take my glasses off, I get this from people. About 20 years ago, I started growing a goatee. And then a couple years after that, I was like, hey, I can be even lazier. I can grow a full beard, and I have to shave hardly ever. But since then, I've had a couple of occasions to shave my beard, and let me tell you, the looks go from to actual fear and backing away. So I have learned from both of these things that the more of my face I can have covered, the better it is for people who interact with me. So I've decided to go full werewolf, but I haven't figured out exactly how to do that. So if you've got any hints on that, let me know. I gotta say, it feels a little weird to be in church and, like, you know, making jokes and cracking wise up here. You know, church is serious, right? I mean, I grew up in church, I've been in church my whole life, and most of your pastors try to be funny but aren't really that funny, and you don't really want them to be, necessarily. But, you know, when you look in the Bible, Jesus was hilarious. Like, anytime Jesus interacted with the Pharisees, he roasted them. Like, he used puns while he was talking to them. You know, you read the Bible, you read the words of Jesus, and they're in red usually, right? So they feel different. You're like, oh yes, he's really delivering this sermon. But then you start looking into it, and you're like, oh wait, he's really sticking it to these guys. And so now I have to picture it, everybody else over here who isn't Pharisees is dying of laughter, while Jesus, I'm sure, very straight face, just roasts them to their face. Pharisees hated Jesus, and they said it was because he was teaching wrong doctrine. But I guarantee you the real reason they hated Jesus, because he made them look foolish, like nobody ever had before. That stuff sticks with you. You can hear the people going, vipers, vipers. There's other funny stuff in the Bible, though. Some of my favorite things. Elijah and the prophets of Baal, right? They got this contest where Elijah is going to pray. The 400 prophets of Baal are going to pray. Whoever God lights the sacrifice on fire, that's the real God. That's the contest. These guys are hooting and hollering and yelling and stabbing themselves and just jumping all over. And Elijah's sitting over here, I imagine, filing his nails. And he's helping them. He's like, hey, maybe yell louder. He might be sleeping, might be taking a nap. And he literally says this. He might be in the bathroom. And these guys are like, yeah, he might be in the bathroom. And they yell even louder. Nothing happens. Then you got the book of John, written by John. He's telling this great story. And you get to the part he's talking about the resurrection of Jesus. And he includes this little detail. They've been told, the disciples have been told that Jesus is gone, he's risen. So John and Peter run. They run. They got to see this for themselves. And he includes this little bit. And the other disciple beat Peter to the open grave. I got to imagine Peter later, right? He's reading through this Gospel of John. He's like, oh, that was a great day. I love that day. Oh, yeah, I did that miracle. Oh, resurrection, man, Peter was so good. Dude! which probably gives you more of a window into me than I should admit, is Job. He's hilarious book, Job, right? Job is having the worst time. Like, it's hard to imagine somebody going through all the stuff that Job has gone through. And he's sitting there, and his friends come and gather around him, and for a while they're being really good friends because they're not saying anything. They're just sitting there, they're being with him, and then they start talking, and they mess it all up. And finally Job has had enough of their idiocy, and he says to them, "Oh, and thou art the man, and wisdom will lie with you. Nobody's ever going to be smart after you guys are gone." And I just love that he is so centered in this time of grief and struggle like few have ever been in, to be able to just absolutely roast them. Now, you might have noticed when I quoted Job there that I used some language that you would find in the King James version of the Bible. That's because the church I grew up in, we only used the King James version. Now, we weren't KJV only, an important distinction that a couple of you will appreciate. But that is what I grew up on. That's what I have my verses memorized in, and that's just how I remember. I remember as a teenager, late 80s, we had an NIV in the church library, and we would read passages from it to each other to make each other laugh. So that's how steeped in the KJV we were. But you have to admit that there are things that the KJV language, you really kind of need it for things, right? It's got a gravitas to it. Like, for instance, Nathan, Prophet Nathan is confronting David. David doesn't know it yet. Telling him a story about the rich man stealing the poor neighbor's lamb and sacrificing it and giving it to his family. And David is incensed. He's furious about this. He wants to kill this guy. And Nathan, not sure what it sounded like in the original Hebrew, but in KJV it was, "Thou art the man." And it's powerful, right? You can picture it. You're right there in the throne room. You see him doing this. It's a little different if he's like, "Hey, that was you, dude." Just doesn't have the right same feel to it. But there's other stuff, and I gotta say, I'm completely thankful for guys like Wycliffe and Luther who translated the Bible into languages that the people could understand, right? Because some pastor comes up to you and says, "Hey, you're not going to get into heaven unless you give me that really nice suit coat that you're wearing." And if you don't know any better, you can be like, "Oh, yeah, here's my suit coat." But if you've got the Bible, you can be like, "Buddy, that's not it, right?" So I'm eternally thankful for that. And there are some things that the modern languages are better for. And I really honestly think like Paul, like he's writing to the Galatians. "Hey, Galatians, it's your boy Paul. Really missing you guys. Hope to come by and see you sometime. But you knuckleheads are really getting under my skin with this stuff. Now listen up." I just think it might have a little bit more heft to it if we read it in modern language there for that. The other thing that's weird about being up here, you guys have been great. Haven't they been great tonight? I love it. That's been my favorite stuff. But the other thing that's weird about being on stage in a church with all the worship equipment and the worship leaders and stuff like that is like, that's a hard job. You ever notice you're a worship leader in church? That's a hard, hard job. I mean, first of all, you gotta pick songs that people are gonna like, that they're gonna know, that they're gonna like. You gotta get them to sing. You gotta get them to clap. And I have to appreciate the eternal optimism of a worship team at 8 o'clock in the morning trying to get a bunch of Midwesterners to clap along to a song. It's inspiring. Honestly, it is. I grew up in a rather sedate church, as you might have guessed from the KJV usage that we had there. So we sang, there's very good singers, but if somebody had raised a hand or, heaven forbid, clapped during the song, we probably would have had to carry a few people out. So I'm still kind of getting used to that, even though I've been at my current church for about 20 years. But I don't think that I could lead worship music because I get too distracted. We'd be singing, amazing. Oh, hold up. Yes, see that hand? You have a question? Oh, my bad. that you were just high-fiving God. That's, a pro tip, if you do down low, God will never be too slow. But people will do what the song says, right? You notice that the song says, lift your hands. Immediately, people who've just been standing there say, oh, listen, yeah, I'll lift my hands. But the song says, clap, or put your hand on your heart. But there's a line, right? That's about all people are going to do. There's that song, lift my hand and spin around. I've never once seen anybody spin around in a church service. Maybe I'm going to the wrong church services, I don't know. I've also never seen anybody sacrifice and mime during a song. That's probably for the best, but this has never happened. Now, our worship leader at my church is actually one of the pastors. So I have to imagine that his schedule for the week is, he's trying to get people to sing, he's trying to get them to interact and do the thing. So imagine his schedule for the week is, Monday morning he gets in, picks out the songs for the week. That takes maybe a half hour or so. Then he practices them, maybe an hour, maybe two if they're kind of difficult and he really needs to work on it. And I figure the rest of the week is probably him calling people and saying, listen, we sang Lift Your Hands in church this weekend. You didn't lift your hands. We're concerned about you. We'd like to schedule a meeting with you about doing that. And if you've got a church of 1,000 people, that's going to take you pretty much the whole week there. So help your pastors out. Raise your hands during songs. That's going to be better for them. But worship is such a deeply personal experience, right? It's different for each of us. Things can get in the way. If we're harboring sin, that can get in the way. Or maybe we're going through a really, really difficult time in our life. It's just hard for us to sing. Or if there's a typo in the PowerPoint slides, forget it. I might as well go home. That is it for me. And while we're on the subject, you ever been in a worship service and the worship leader's like, I'm really feeling this song. It's just, I love this. Let's sing that chorus one more time. And the PowerPoint suspiciously already had that extra chorus built into it. The Spirit leads in mysterious ways, and apparently he can do that ahead of time as well. So that's going to be okay. But it's great to worship. I love to worship with people, but I really think that when we get to heaven, it's going to be something special, right? It's going to be, we're not going to have any distractions up there. We're going to be united in spirit. We're not going to be standing next to somebody who is making a joyful noise. Bless them. I appreciate their enthusiasm, because they're always very enthusiastic about it. A couple of years ago, I was in a study, and we did a study. It was a video study on a book about heaven. So every week it was about a 7 or 8 minute video where the author would come on and talk about one of the chapters in his book. And it was always something like, will there be pets in heaven? Or will we be able to teleport from heaven to earth? Or all of these other, what is this going to happen in heaven? And the answer literally every week was, maybe, we don't know. Which I have to appreciate his honesty, but after 7 or 8 weeks of that, it gets a little like a struggle. So I hope very much for my sake, because when I come to a new place that I've never been there before, I get very confused. I don't know how to, if I go to a new restaurant, I don't know how to order, I don't know where to sit, I don't know how everything works. I get very anxious about it. And I imagine that's going to happen to me in heaven, whatever the heaven version of being anxious is. So I'm hoping that, well, before I get to that, you ever think about angels and their jobs? Like, you got some angels in the Bible, right, that are like, they get the really important jobs. When we talk to Mary, when we talk to Mary's cousin, they're just single angels. And first words out of their mouth, say it with me, be not afraid. Listen, you're 12 foot tall, you're glowing, you've got I don't know how many eyes and how many wings. It's going to be my choice whether or not I'm going to be afraid, and you're just going to have to let me feel my feelings and live this journey right now. You say whatever you got to do, But you just got to bear with me right here. But I got to think, when they post the assignments in heaven for the angels, hey, here's what you guys are doing today, that, sometimes they're a little disappointed. Probably they didn't get one of the big jobs like Gabriel or Michael did. And I specifically think about, like, the birth of Christ, right? The angels come to look at the poster board for that day, and they're like, oh. And they're not mad, not mad in heaven, of course. They're kind of bummed about it because they really wanted to be there. That's going to be a really cool thing. And enough of them said that God was like, all right, you can all go, it's fine. And that's why there was a multitude of heavenly hosts at the birth of Christ. I'm convinced of this. But I hope one of the angel jobs that they have, when I get to heaven, I really, really hope this. I hope that there's like heaven orientation. Because I'm gonna be really confused. It's gonna be really hard for me, I think. So I like to imagine that we get gathered into a small room. Hello, everyone. Welcome to heaven. My name is Brad. I'm going to teach you a little bit about what you can expect. First of all, the word you're looking for is overwhelmed. Yes, everyone is. It happens to everyone. Nothing to be ashamed of. It's great. That's why we're here. That's why we wanted to gather here together in a smaller group, kind of get you up to speed on some things here. So, you've got your welcome packets there. So we'll go through some of that. But just to tell you kind of what's going on here in this particular room, since we're outside of time up here, we've got kind of a cross section here. Like over here, we've got Balthazar. He's from Mesopotamia, about 3000 BC. He made chariot wheels. Hi, Balthazar. Say hi to him. And then over here, this is Kyle. He was born in America in the 21st century, about 22, somewhere in there. And he traded in cryptocurrency and NFTs. Kyle, do me a favor. When you try to explain that to Balthazar later, let me be there for that conversation, because I want to see how that goes. But you'll notice in your welcome packet there, we've got a section of frequently asked questions. That's not terribly important, but we know you want to know it. Where the other sock went in the dryer. Why yawns were contagious. And also the reason you had an appendix, yeah, that's in there too. So you'll see all of that. I won't go through all of those, but I do want to point out a couple of things. First of all, when you go through the line for the wedding feast of the Lamb, if you could get a new plate every time, obviously here in heaven, you don't really need to, but we're really trying to help the Baptists acclimate a little bit. So if you can help us out with that, that would be great. And while we're on that subject, the worship times are, well, again, we don't really have time here in heaven, but you'll see there's pretty much a worship service going on every time. And those of you from the Church of Christ, we do have an a cappella section, so you're going to feel right at home there, so it's going to be okay. The other big thing, oh yes, when you sign up for the holodecks. Now, again, it's not really a time thing. You'll see how that works when you get there, but people love these things. You're going to love it. A lot of the popular ones are like creation, the flood, David versus Goliath. That one's really exciting. Of course, the birth and resurrection of Christ. Those are very popular. If you're from, again, America's in the 20th century, I'm just going to tell you this, it'll save you some time. Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. You don't need to look that one up, waste your time with that one, you're going to be fine. Just another hint. Don't look up that time when your high school sweetheart dumped you, because we're trying to wipe away enough tears up here as it is, so just make it a little easier for us. Listen, there's lots of stuff we can talk about, but I'm really excited to get out on a tour. So why don't we go do that? We'll get on a tour. I know you want to see the dinosaur ranch that we've got out there and everything. If you've got other questions, just ask them while we're on the tour. That'll be great. So I really, really hope that we get an orientation like that, because that's really going to help me. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously heaven, we're going to be reunited with our Savior. We're going to be free from sorrow. We're going to be free from aches and pains. I won't need my glasses anymore. I do wonder how long it's going to take me to get over the angels doing this number at these. Thanks, guys. You've been a great audience.